Linden ladies and baobab boys, trace your trunks from carbon sink to canopy. Listen to the lamentations of the lichens. And enough of this pulpwood. What's the real understory?
It's time to talk Tull to me. I got nothing. I couldn't think of anything on the fly.
Time to make like a leaf and... No.
Make like a leaf and tree.
Time to make like a leaf and fall down in the fall. Get buried by the snow and decompose.
And die. Yeah.
Nick, welcome back to the podcast. I am Omen Thomas Sade.
And I am Nick McGill.
Together we are the symbiotic species, the Feckless Momes.
And this, my little shoots, is Talk Tull to Me.
A dendrological dance through the shady grove of prog rock, in which Nemoil Nick and Oak Gall Omen will count the rings of each and every track that renewable resource rock band Jethro Tull have ever angiospermed out into the fertile world. We will see if Andrew Giddings lurches like a larch, if Doane Perry poses like a poplar, or if Martin Barr bounces like a buckeye. And if we keep our phloem fresh and our xylem zesty, we may just rub branches with the bald cypress of Blackpool, the fir flautist, the sweet gum of Skye, the cedar who will eat her, a man with more sass than a sassafras, Ian Arboretum Anderson. Arboretum? I hardly know him.
Remember someone sent us pictures of there's a rock and roll tree museum or something?
The Rock and Roll Arboretum.
Yeah, with Jethro Tull in there.
I want to say it's in Copenhagen.
Yes, that sounds right. Yeah.
It's somewhere it's in Denmark or maybe Holland.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there should be more mixed use arboretums in the world.
What other uses?
Like it's an arboretum plus rock and roll, or arboretum plus
coffee shop.
Plus coffee shop, for instance. Yeah. A poetry arboretum.
Yeah, I mean, just more trees in general, I support.
Anything with a tree, I'm pretty much there for it.
I'm pro-tree.
Pro-tree. Nick.
Omen.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Here we are.
Trees.
A
wonderful subject. Trees. A wonderful subject, and one that we could speak on at great length. But today, we are actually going to be talking, believe it or not, about a track by the band Jethro Tull.
Surprise.
It is off of the .com album, which we have been delightfully making our way through over the past couple of weeks. And what is the track on which we find ourselves stretching out and having a little rest?
We're going to hang the hammock on Bends Like a Willow, track number 11. We have 3 more after this, and then a bonus. So we're narrowing in on the end. Shortly, we will be moving out of the official Tull canon into the Apocrypha of Homo Eroticus and Thixabric 2. The Dead Sea Scrolls of Jethro Tull.
The Dead Sea Scrolls. The Testament of Judas of Jethro Tull.
Yes, that's it. The Testament of Jethro Tull.
The Testament of Tullus.
Yeah.
And then Jesus kissed me. It's so hard.
And then we just listened to Aqualung and floated away.
I'm reading a poem called The Anarchist Jesus.
That sounds great.
I will report back.
There's a comic called Punk Rock Jesus.
Love it.
Yeah. That's all I got.
There's a Jethro Tull song called When Jesus Came to Play.
There is a religion based around Jesus Christ.
Is that really? That's silly.
Seems excessive, right?
That seems excessive. A whole religion? My God. Nick, why don't we have a listen before we are struck by lightning bolts? Why don't we have a listen to Bends Like a Willow?
Bend your ears.
Nick, I'm not going to tell you what kind of bumps that song gave me.
Chickenpox.
Yes. I love this song, Nick.
It's so good. This is one of my favorites on this album, for sure.
This is probably my favorite off the album, and probably my favorite of the decade or two surrounding this album. This is one of my favorite Jethro Tull songs of all time.
It's so solid. It feels like it transcends time. It feels like it doesn't belong on an album, really. Tell me more about that. Where would it belong if it belonged somewhere, or does it not belong anywhere?
In heaven. No, I mean, sonically, we've got a little exoticism that really fits in with the rest of the stuff on this album, on .com, which, as we've heard thus far, is kind of the echoing aftershock of the real exoticism that we have from Roots to Branches prior to this.
Uh-huh.
So in that regard, it does fit there, but there's something, and I could be 100% biased because I just love the song so much, but there's something that transcends the idea of this song being required to fit into an album sonically.
Interesting.
If you pick out Hunt by Numbers right now and listen to it, great song, super solid. But to me, that is a song that belongs in jtull.com.
Okay. This to you feels like a song that could stand on its own as a one-song album.
Yes. Yeah. It doesn't have to have the preamble of Tull up to this point. Not that you need to listen to Spiral.com and AWOL, Nothing at All, Wicked Windows, then Hunt by Numbers. You don't. But there's something more that transcends with this song. It is so awesome.
I agree. And I think for me, there's a simplicity to it. The central metaphor of it is so simple, but so elegantly proposed that it doesn't need any other external support. And also, I think that there's we've been hearing a little bit of this on this album so far. Andy Giddings is playing with some effects on the synth that are really different than anything we've heard, and probably were a function of the time period where some of these effects were now possible to engage with.
Yeah.
And he gives it almost another worldly feeling.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning, in the, I'm not sure if it's the first verse or if it's just before the first verse, but he does these sounds that almost sound like some sort of a space engine where it's like,
yeah, this wee,
yeah, there's a simultaneous upward motion and downward motion. You can't figure out what it is.
Yeah, it's very fun.
And there's a lot of that going all the way through it. Even when he's playing notes, he has a setting on them often. It feels like you should be listening to this song in outer space.
Yeah, there is some astral feel to it for sure.
I wouldn't have blinked if this song had been featured in Firefly.
Oh, I would have blinked because they didn't feature any songs other than the composer.
Than that one.
But yeah, no, it does have this spacey feel to it.
Yeah.
And that little whew, that's right before the first verse.
Yes.
Because that leads into Martin going ticka 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 ticka.
He's catching the wind, the gentlest of breezes.
Not strumming, not quite plucking. He's got something going on where he's just kind of like light and kind of bouncy.
Yeah.
Prior to that, we've got cymbals and tambo. What a Doan song this is.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Much like Andy on keyboard, Doan is all over the place with all sorts of instruments.
Yes. Especially the beginning. The intro to the song is probably one of my favorite intros to any Jethro Tull song. So clean, so engaging. We have Martin doing that biddy-bee, dee-dee-dee-dee, which is so great. And Doan is doing some like percussion-y stuff. It almost sounds like he's placed a tambourine on something and is tapping on that, and then is sometimes hitting some sort of a hi-hat or a cymbal.
Just barely, if you squint hard enough, that intro reminds me of The Boys of Summer by Don Henley, the intro to that song. It's a little more synthesized and a little more, well, it's a lot more synthesized and it's a lot more drum machine on Boys of Summer. But it still feels that way. It's got that like slight buildup. It's got the slight like guitar sting that's clearly, your main driver for this moment. It's very strange, but it's slightly there. It slightly reminds me of that.
Yeah. After the intro, we have the electric guitar and the percussion. We have the synth effects, those engine sounds. Once Jonathan Noyce comes on the bass, I love the rhythm he's doing. I find it hilarious that he stays on the same note for almost a minute. He's just literally going dum 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 ticka bum down bam bam. On one note the entire time until we have the big first chord change. I think sensitive passage, she's sailing. I think the chord changes there.
The gentlest of breezes, it's a sensitive passage, she's sailing.
He's a rhythm bassist, a lot of this song.
Yeah, this is another one where he's not stealth in this at all. If you want to hear the bass, if you want to pick out the bass, it's there. It's very easy to do. And it's not a complaint. It's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun in this one. The bass is really thumping and driving.
It's because he can either fire his torpedoes or be cloaked. He can't do both simultaneously.
If you make an attack while stealthed in D&D, you lose your stealth. If you make an attack while invisible, you lose your invisibility.
Yeah. Same thing with the Klingons in Star Trek.
Exactly. What a fucking nerd.
I was just going to say, we had so many girlfriends in high school. Untrue.
We get a slight harmony, maybe just double up a voice on the bends like a willow parts.
Oh, sure. Yes, absolutely.
She bends like a willow.
Definitely just Ian. I don't think it's anybody else. I don't think it's even Andy coming in there. It just feels like it's the Ian harmony classic of just like, I'll step this up 2 steps, or I'll take it down just a hair.
Sometimes he's doing it quite high up.
That's true. Yeah, he does get up there.
Bends like a willow.
Yeah.
He gets up there and it's a lovely, lovely little harmony or addition.
Yeah, this song is so fun to sing.
Yes.
So fun to sing.
Yes.
It's a great range, I think, for both of us as well. That certainly helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the delivery, the kind of the slime, the sexy slime that he has. It's really fun to sing to.
We have a little bit of a change of theme pretty much in the first verse. I don't know if I would call it the verse. In between the first and bend like a willow, she bends like a willow. We have that second theme, that D, 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 D. And then she bends like a willow. We really have a limited number of musical themes in this piece. We have dee-dee-dee, bee-dee-bee-bee. We have dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. We have that part that we just played. And then we have my favorite. I love that part, the intricate rhythm that Ian is playing on the flute, how it's backed up by the band. Mm-hmm. It's almost got a swing feeling to it, like it keeps getting ahead and then finding itself backwards. I don't know. I love the musicality of the song.
The flute is very bright in this one. It's very nice. With so much of the percussion going on, so much of that bass being palpable, and the synth being all over the place.
Yeah.
Being kind of impossible to pin down. Having Ian's really bright clarion of the flute throughout this, even though he's kind of hectic, he's bouncing around, there's something that keeps you grounded while you can hear him playing that.
That's a great point. At some points, I think Martin achieves that same type of clearness. Mm-hmm. In this song, we don't have that real grungy sound on the guitar that we have on a lot of the other tracks in this album.
That's true. Very true, yeah.
But that points to another thing that I observed, which is, we are now in the world of digital recording.
Yes.
And so some of the recordings that come out of this time period, the mix doesn't sound as nice. Because digital tracks mix in a different way, and digital tracks can be so clean that sometimes the end result is too clean.
Yeah, right. It's too sterile.
It's too sterile, or, if you make a mistake, you lose an entire level of information on the track. Mm-hmm. If you compress it to an MP3, suddenly you lose all of that rich sound.
The nuance, yeah.
And I think that this whole album is a really great example of the positive side of what was achievable with the new technology.
Sure, yeah.
Which I'm sure was not easy. The little key for me is there's a rest at one point, and whereas most recordings before this point, the rest, you would still be able to hear some of the vibrations of the instruments. This rest is complete dead silence. There's nothing happening there.
Yeah, I deleted this portion.
Yeah.
So it is as silent as possible.
It's a real silence just for that one moment, which is kind of like, oh, right, it's digital.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't think about that terribly often, but it's when you do stop to think about it, particularly in a band like this where you've experienced so much in this progression of the technology, you know, when they do switch to something pretty drastically different, you know, if you can pick out those instances, it really is kind of a game changer in some ways.
Yeah. We have a key change around 307. Every time Ian starts a new verse with a fully armed angel, when I'm caustic and cold, I'm swept in the riptide, the band does a very subtle, just slight bump up of the intensity and energy each time. I couldn't even tell you exactly how it's achieved, and maybe it's an illusion. Maybe there's no change, and I'm just putting that on it myself.
Maybe it's just Ian's delivery that makes it feel a little more potent, you know?
There's something very combative in the imagery of a lot of this song. Obviously, we'll talk about it in the second half, but the delivery matches that, not just Ian's delivery, but the delivery of the whole band, where it just is slightly cranking up the intensity every single time.
Yeah. There's a moment at around 3:30, and I heard it both times, so I know I'm not crazy, but it's so subtle and quiet. I don't know what the hell it is, but it almost sounds like the sound of chalk writing on a chalkboard. Just that light, like scrapey. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it from the phone. It's the really good headphones, I think.
3:30?
But it's so weird. It's right around 3:30, yeah. There's no way I'm going to be able to play it. Play it to you guys. I mean, I'll play it, but I don't know if you'll hear anything.
Oh, interesting.
It sounds like it's not to the tune. It's not even really like trying to be musical. It just feels like that that's the only way I can identify that sound.
Oh, interesting.
Could be insane. But I mean, I get it. I get it just now. So I've heard it 3 times. So it is manifested.
Definitely not a ghost. I didn't hear it, but that doesn't mean it's not there. You have better hearing than me. But I think that just goes to show that, you know, while the composition, the themes of this song are relatively straightforward, less complex than a lot of Tull songs, the subtlety and the variations, the texture, the weaving in and out of different elements makes this such a rich song to listen to.
We've seen a lot of great texture just in this album.
Yes.
I think.
And on the previous one as well.
Yeah. I mean, they all have their own version of great texture. You know, I mean, no, I can't really think of many Tull songs that are bland, except for A Small Cigar. But, but there is something about the texture. Maybe it's like you were saying, maybe it's the technology, maybe it's the new type of synth or whatever. Maybe it's Doan's playing. I don't know. But there is something more to these songs that it comes across on the surface as relatively simple and straightforward.
Yeah.
But if you you don't need to look hard to see what inner machinations are going on beneath.
Right. I wonder if there is an element to Ian's now been producing music for
30 years?
69 to 99, 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years nonstop.
Right.
And maybe there is a shift out of, you know, we need to make this as flashy as possible. You know, it's a big showy show. We're doing this for big stadiums. And maybe there is a shift toward, I don't really care what people think of it. I want to deepen the experience rather than expand the experience. Like rather than making it more song per song, make it deeper and higher quality and more intricate per song.
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly don't think he catered to like a stadium rock feel.
Not for this.
But there certainly is a lot less that's presentational in these.
Especially with this song in particular, feels it's one of the more vulnerable.
It's very personal.
Very personal and statedly so.
Yeah.
Or it feels that way.
Yeah, it does.
I'm stating that it's so.
Yeah.
It's personal to me.
That's what it comes down to, ladies and gentlemen.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Nick, welcome to the center, the gooey nugget of the podcast. Have we any correspondences?
No correspondences for today.
Have we any reviews?
No reviews for today.
Gosh, have we anything at all with which to feed the children, Nick?
I think we have the most nutritious morsel that could possibly be. Just today, a scant 8 hours ago, Omen, you and I sat down for a chat, an hour-long chat with dear friend of the pod.
Official friend of the pod, too late to take it back.
We got matching bracelets.
JDA reached out to us and he said, hey, lads, given that you're talking about .com, I thought you might be interested in hearing some things that we found. And my little ears perked up. And so did my big ears. So the story goes thusly. At some point in recent days, the Tull team was cleaning out a warehouse that Ian owns somewhere, in which he stores a lot of the old tapes and reel-to-reel, all the original material. Ian's very, like Taylor Swift, very deliberate about having control over his material, much like Charlie Chaplin was. And obviously it pays off for him. And they came across the tapes and hard drives for .com. Now, of course, this was the first time that hard drives had been used as a storage mechanism for music. And within those, there were some song titles that no one seemed to recognize. This is the part where I had this flash where I was like, oh my God, we used to jokingly say that we are Tolkiologists, but this is literally Tolkiology, like literally. So James Duncan Anderson, out of the generosity and goodness of his heart, played for us just some clips, some raw, unmixed clips of about 5 tracks that have never been released to the public and really not heard outside of the immediate Tull recording session members and now him and maybe one other person.
Yeah.
I'm almost at a loss for words, but not quite.
It was an amazing experience. Just in general, like interacting with James is what a sweet, sweet man. It's so delightful to just chat with him. I mean, the second half was us just talking about our family and our holidays and things like that. It was awesome. It's so fun to talk to him.
He's so down to earth, such a stand-up guy, such a gentleman.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we still don't know why he keeps talking to us.
It is a Christmas miracle that JDA reaches out to us and we haven't initiated. But yeah, so he played 5 songs that were mysterious. He played just snippets of them. Some were really different sounding than what you hear on .com.
Yeah. All of them I was like, yeah, okay, I can tell that that was recorded in the same period. You hear some of the genetic material, but some of it I was like, why isn't that on the album? Like, that's so cool. And some of it was, whoa, that's really interesting. 2 of the tracks in particular had a little bit of like what I would describe as a Celtic or really Irish flute sound to them.
Oh, flute sound. Yeah. There's also one that has, I think it was synth, but it was synth on Squeezebox. It was synth on accordion sound.
Yes.
That was the 4th one we heard. And then the 5th one had acoustic.
Yeah.
And it was gorgeous. It was really beautiful.
I know you were taking notes while we were listening, but at a certain point, I just put my pen down and I closed my eyes and I was like, I just need to savor this and enjoy the moment of listening to literally unearthed Tull music.
Yeah, 5 band members, the person who pulled it off of the hard drive, James, and then the Feckless Mobs.
And the Feckless Mobs. Doesn't make any sense. How did they get in there? But amazing stuff. Now, all of you who are listening to this and burning with jealousy, don't worry. It sounds like these are all going to be remastered, remixed, and released on an upcoming .com re-release.
Right.
So that is something to look forward to. Not sure what the timeline is.
Yeah, it sounds like it's very early days.
Yes.
But they've reached a point now, James said, where they're doing the re-releases of everything that is owned by Warner's. So it was owned by Chrysalis. They got bought out by EMI. They got bought out by Warner's.
Right.
So they're going through all of that back catalog. They are currently working on Under Wraps. They are toying with a couple of different ideas about how the drum is going to go. We won't get into any of that.
We asked lots of questions.
And he was very open with us. He said, don't tell anyone. So they are on that track of the Warner's music. But right around 95 or so, Ian decided to license the music out as opposed to having the music companies own the license. So
right.
That's why they just announced the re-release for the Christmas album.
Right.
That's why they're redoing .com as well.
Yeah.
Under this guise of, we're going to remaster it. We're going to put out these awesomely found bonus tracks.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it under our license because we own that music.
And why not?
Exactly. Yeah.
So really exciting stuff. I mean, I find myself somewhat unable to sufficiently express how cool it was to hear these tracks and how good they are.
Yeah.
And JDA kept saying, listen, they're not mastered. The levels are all out of whack. This part sounds terrible. And we were like, just like beaming with delight. And you could tell, you were like, oh yeah, okay, this instrument is too high, obviously. Even we can tell that.
Yeah, there was one where the vocals were really quiet. That was the thing that I noticed. But I mean, other than that,
the quality is amazing. The musicianship, I mean, it's great.
It's exactly what you would expect for two zealots hearing unheard music of their band that really you don't get much of that unheard music anymore.
I'm so glad that I wasn't wearing pants for that listening party.
You would have blown right out of them.
In both directions.
Also, there is word that they are working with Inside Out, who distributes their music now. There is a new album in 2025 they're talking about.
Yep. So again, something to look forward to.
Yep.
The Tull journey is not yet done.
That it is not. And we are here to hold your hand along the way.
Nick McGill.
Oh, Thomas 8. Here we are, second half.
Why don't we talk a little bit about the song Bends Like a Willow from a lyrical perspective?
I think that's a great idea. We should start doing that for the rest of the podcast.
Oh my God, what an amazing idea.
We'll go back and re-record them and do that from now on. So now, if you've heard them under that format, it's because we just fixed it.
We're doing a re-release of every single episode with extra bonus content that we found on Nick's hard drive.
Yeah, Steve Wilson is going to remaster them, and yeah, we'll do a full vinyl set.
Let's talk about the Willow Tree. Nick, the title of the song is Bends Like a Willow. Let's talk about the willow.
Sure. Let us talk about the willow.
Willows are really on just about every continent, it seems. There are hundreds and hundreds of species of them across the world. Mm-hmm. The genus name is Salix.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice one. And they grow in temperate zones, Arctic zones, alpine zones, tundra, European mountains. They grow in marshlands. They grow in wetlands. They grow really all over the place.
They like water, by the way. They really like water. They grow very quickly in a wet environment, yeah.
One of them grew very quickly in a container that I had, and it started like literally 6 months ago, and now I have a 6-foot native willow tree.
Wow.
Silex caroleanus, which is a native willow to this area.
Yeah, they're happy. They're quick to grow. They're fairly easy to grow. Not much grows on our land because it is so wet, but we have massive willow trees. They currently have a blight, which is a little upsetting, but hopefully they'll shake it off. They'll get better. Their sexual organ is a catkin. It's a little fuzzy thing.
The symbolism of the willow is fascinating and varied. In Judeo-Christian culture, it has an association with mourning and grief. I'm not sure if you remember, there's that old traditional song that I think some of the Ren Fair bands sang. All around my hat, I will wear the green willow.
All around my hat, I will wear the green willow, and all around my hat for a 12-month and a day. And if anyone should ask me the reason why I'm wearing it, it's all for my true love, who's far, far away.
Do you remember that?
No, it doesn't sound familiar at all.
It's a sign of mourning. To wear a willow is to be demonstrative of a period of mourning. It's often engraved on gravestones.
Oh, cool.
It also has a connotation of fertility and long-livedness. And of course, there is the parable that is very relevant to the song. What are you laughing at?
Long-livedness?
Long-livedness.
You're livid for a long time? Just really angry.
Longevity, I think, perhaps.
There you go, yeah.
But then there's also the old parable of the strong oak stood up to the storm but eventually broke in half.
Yeah.
Whereas the willow bent with the storm and so survived.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very lithe.
Very lithe.
Very flexible. Their trunk and their branches are very thin.
Often.
Very springy.
Of course, willows are used for a variety of purposes, including basket weaving, fencing material.
Switches.
To
beat your bad children.
Yep. Switches to beat your good children. And a variety of other things. They have a lot of interesting associations. Oh, the branch that broke underneath Ophelia was a willow tree. Right in line with that association of mourning.
Yeah, that's not smart to climb a willow tree.
Not smart to go swimming when your dress is very absorbent.
50 pounds.
50 pounds of water in your dress. However, in this case, in this song, I think we are talking more about the flexibility aspect of the willow.
I think you are correct.
She's catching the wind, the gentlest of breezes.
She's catching the wind, the gentlest of breezes.
Because willows are so flexible, they are the first to be moved by the wind.
Sure.
They have a display of subtlety of them. The gentlest of breezes can make them transform. It's a sensitive passage she's sailing through stormy straits. Navigates my unfathomable failings.
It's a sensitive passage she's sailing through stormy straits. Navigates my unfathomable failings.
What do you make of it, Nick?
It feels like this is my better half, and this is how she puts up with me.
Yeah, sure.
Sensitive passage is having to tiptoe around someone's temper. Unfathomable failings, whatever faults you may have.
What an amazing insight into the self-perception of the writer.
Yeah. Assuming this is a personal song, this is an Ian and Shona song.
Yeah.
It's very personal.
Very personal, yeah.
It's not just, I love her, she loves me. This is a hard and fast why she loves me, how she loves me.
Yeah.
In a very human way, not just like a fairy tale, kind of ethereal, non-specific.
Yeah, it's she loves me and I am unlovable. So the fact that she loves me is a superhuman effort.
She loves me even though I'm a shit.
It reminds me, my great-grandfather was a mullah in Persia and was very looked up to by the community. He was a very religious figure. I guess he converted to Christianity at some point, but he was very religious no matter what religion he was doing. He was way into it. And at some point, somebody came up to him and was like, oh, you're so virtuous, like you're the perfect man. And he looked at them and he said, if you could see me the way that God sees me, you would flee in disgust.
Whoa.
That's always stuck with me just because it's such a badass thing to say.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm getting from this is like, however good or bad you think I am, you don't even know the depths of my failures.
But she does.
But she does know it.
Yeah.
And she still loves me.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think we need to get Willem Dafoe to play your great-grandfather.
Willem Dafoe.
I think he could pull that off very well. That badass line. Yeah.
Other than being a white guy, sure.
White guys play everything, don't they?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. I just clocked the fact that the title of the song is about trees, and then immediately we switch to a nautical metaphor.
oh, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
She rises before me, reading me clearly, empty nest left pressed in the pillow.
She rises before me, reading me clearly. Empty nest left pressed in the pillow.
I love that imagery of, where someone's head is lying in the pillow.
Mm-hmm.
And rises before me has potential double meaning. She is like an apparition, is rising.
Oh, yeah. Rises up in front of you, before you. Yeah.
Or she gets up early because she knows that I'll be less of a grumpy bitch with a nice cup of tea to wake up to.
Right. I don't know if this is a mistake or what, but why is there not a break after unfathomable failings? Why is there a break? She rises before me, reading me clearly.
So you're looking at the silent singing text.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's got to be a mistake. It's got to be.
I don't know that it is a mistake because it's then paralleled in the next verse. But it doesn't quite match up. It's really interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure. Reading it out loud, I'm basing it off of the grouping that Ian does.
Yeah, exactly.
How he connects the lines. But maybe there's some poetic, stylistic underpinning to this whole song that we're not privy to.
Yeah, it's possible. It also could just be a mistake.
It could also be a mistake. Although, I don't know.
I think so.
I think Ian's almost as bad as you when it comes to wanting things to be just so.
I still make mistakes.
Do you? Well, you're friends with me, so. And then he ends it with, she can shift, she can sway, and bend like a willow.
She can shift, she can sway, and bend like a willow.
Here's the fascinating thing for me about this song. Often, if a man were to describe a woman as, oh, she's so pliable, she does what I want to do, she's so accommodating, she's a chill girl, you'd get the impression of someone who is kind of subservient.
Yeah.
And that is not at all what we get here. We get her flexibility as a strength, as this amazing power that the singer is in awe of.
Yeah.
It's a very unusual metaphor and way of describing their relationship.
Yeah, I certainly don't see any evidence to misconstrue it as that, like, oh, I can control her.
No, it's the opposite. It's she has reins over me in a way that no one else can because she bends like a willow.
And she needs to, and I need her to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Continuing on, we have, I'm swept in the riptide, caught in a fish trap, gift wrapped in my soft self-center.
I'm swept in the riptide, caught in a fish trap, gift wrapped in my soft self-center.
Waha!
I like the scansion and caught in a fish trap. He goes, caught in a fish trap.
In a fish trap!
He pulls out the caught and really truncates the fish trap.
Yes!
It's just a fun sound.
Caught in a fish trap.
Again, keeping with the water metaphor here.
Mm-hmm.
Swept in the riptide. The riptide is the tide that you are not aware of necessarily, that goes out directly from the shore and can be the death of swimmers very easily.
Yeah.
Caught in a fish trap. Fish traps can be woven out of willow.
That they can. Brill.
Gift wrapped in my soft self-center. Oh my God. I love that line so much. And it speaks to me of that thing that probably all of us are guilty of at some point, but I think is probably more of a male affliction, where you get wrapped up in all this self-referential identity. It makes you smaller and smaller and smaller. And you're like, well, I'm not that. Well, I'm not that. Well, I'm not that. Well, I need it to be this way.
Yeah.
It's self-centeredness taken to the extreme in some ways, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And it covers you completely to the point where that is your identity. That is what you are. You're gift wrapped in this.
Yes.
The idea of calling it gift wrapped is very funny. There's definitely a tongue in cheek there, but to refer to a tiny self-centered man as being a gift, but to her, he is a gift.
I know. It's every way that you turn the jewel of these lyrics, they sparkle in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
I interpret it as one of two ways. That one, which you just said, like, oh, aren't I a present? Wouldn't you like to see me under your tree with a bow on?
Yeah.
But also there's this sense of the gift wrap looks nice. It's the facade that you're presenting. And inside is just this turbulent turmoil of bad feelings.
Yeah, that's true.
Summer sun leaves me as one who can only taste winter.
Summer sun leaves me as one who can only taste winter.
Very reminiscent of Caught in the August Rain.
And bends to kiss my frown away. But I'm still stuck in the August rain. Stuck out in the cloudburst once again.
She's a good, a good godsend. She can bend like a willow.
She's a good godsend. She can bend like a willow.
Rhyme scheme wise, this is not a velvet mondegreen.
Okay.
But we've got Summer Sun leaves me as one. I'm expecting an un-rhyme. So when he says she's a good god, I always finish the lyric as godson.
That's funny.
She's a good godson.
Yeah, that's really funny. And then we come up on, I think, what is my favorite couple of lines here. With a fully armed angel to cover me quickly, I'm cool under enemy fire. If I fall, she can crawl right under the wire.
With a fully armed angel to cover me quickly, I'm cool under enemy fire. If I fall, she can crawl right under the wire.
I feel safe with her. She protects me. She keeps me safe. She gives me confidence. And even if something happens, she's there for me.
Yeah. Some of this, even the specificity of the imagery, a fully armed angel immediately makes me think of the Valkyrie.
Yeah, very much so.
You know, which is she's not an angel necessarily just of peace and love.
Mm-hmm.
She is
a badass angel.
She's a badass angel who will cut you in half if I'm the one that she's saving.
Yeah.
If I fall, she can crawl right under the wire. That makes me think very much of the World War II and World War I trench warfare.
World War I for me, but yeah.
Yeah, where, you know, there were the trenches and then there was the no man's land that was just barbed wire and mud and death.
Yeah.
And so the idea that someone would crawl under the wires to retrieve you if you were wounded.
They would often aim to wound and leave people wounded in the no man's land.
So as to draw out more rescues. Yeah.
Yeah. I get two interpretations on that. If I fall, she can crawl right under the wire. She will crawl out and protect me. No, I get three interpretations. She'll crawl out and get me.
Yeah.
Also, that Valkyrie image, she'll call out, and the Valkyries take the dead heroes to Valhalla.
Yeah.
Even if I fall, she will still praise me. She will still give me a good ending.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
But also under the wire is just in time, right?
Yes.
Like something happens just under the wire.
Yeah.
She'll be there to save me, and she'll do it with just enough time. Even if it's right to the very last second, she's there.
Even if I lose hope.
She's there, right under the wire.
I was wrong because there she was. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I have to imagine that being a public figure like Ian can wear.
Oh, sure.
Can be tiring. I mean, any idiot with a microphone can start a freaking podcast about your life's work. How annoying.
Why would they? I don't know.
Not that anyone would, of course, yeah. But the notion, we've talked a lot about, you know, that it seems that in that relationship, Ian is the public one and Shona is the private one, and they've been very deliberate about that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So to have somebody who can say, hey, all that stuff that you're angry about, it's happening on the outside. Somebody, you know, misspelled your name in a newspaper. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just be here and return to the stuff that actually matters, which is your real life and your family.
Yeah, that grounding element, particularly when you are so everywhere and so transient and you don't have your feet on the same soil for more than a day.
Yeah.
You know, going back to that and being able to put those blinders on and just look at your grounding rod. It's a good
godsend.
It's a good setup. It's a good godsend to have that setup.
When I'm caustic and cold, she might dare to be bold, ease me round to her warm way of thinking.
When I'm caustic and cold, she might dare to be bold, ease me round to her warm way of thinking.
Even when the singer is like, listen, Willow person, you can't get me this time.
Yeah, being a cranky asshole.
Yeah, somehow he finds himself in teddy bear mode again.
Right. She might dare to be bold. Most people would be put off. Most people would leave the room. But she is brave enough. She makes the effort. And I'm turned around.
Yep. Fill me up from the cup of love that she's drinking.
Fill me up from the cup of love that she's drinking.
Wow. What a great image. What a great, like domestic image of, is it a cup of wine? Is it a cup of tea? Or is it more metaphorical? Is it the cup of wonder that is the source of all life? Is it the great cauldron, the holy grail?
Yeah.
And then this is the thing that I'm so glad that we have silent singing for, because the last 5 lines almost look like one of those things where you write out abracadabra and then you take off one letter so it makes a downward pointing triangle.
Magic triangle, I think it's called, yeah.
A magic triangle. He sort of has a magic triangle here with the lyrics. He says, and I find, given time, I can bend like a willow. She bends like a willow, bends like a willow, a willow.
And I find, given time, I can bend like a willow. She bends like a willow, bends like a willow, like a willow, a willow.
And it is beautiful to see on the page that you have willow, 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 kind of making this arc downward.
It's very satisfying, yeah.
And the way that he sings it is fantastic as well.
Yeah, it's ethereal. It's interspersed with kind of this wind down of the rest of the music. And then at the very end, we get just a sustained flute note as our very last thing.
Bee-dee-bee.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Pretty sure I nailed it.
I just played it from the track.
Oh, that wasn't me. That was the track.
Yeah.
So overall, how do we step back and look at this as a song, as a meaning, as a model? Why does it exist? Why couldn't he have kept it to himself instead of making us all feel bad about our shitty relationship? No, that's not true.
I've been asking that for 40 years. I think it's appreciation.
Yeah.
It is a humanifying. It's giving Ian, if we are to assume that this is Ian singing about himself, it gives him a humanity. But it also, I think, in a sense, gives permission to other people to have this relationship, to acknowledge maybe that they are the grump and they can be turned around, they can be saved, they can be taught to bend like a willow in time, given time.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that there's hope.
Yeah.
I love that it ends on a note of hope, and I find given time, I can bend like a willow.
Right.
Even me.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Even Ian Anderson can. There's hope for you.
There's hope for everyone. I think that it is a championing of a certain type of a superpower that is underappreciated, underglorified. So much of popular culture and music is, I'm a hard-walking, tough man. I'm so strong and nothing can blow me over.
Yeah.
And this is giving the critique to all of that and saying, you think that I'm the powerful person? Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a vulnerability, an admitted vulnerability in a very realistic way.
Yeah. Yeah. The only reason that I'm able to be who you think I am is because this person who's actually doing the real work.
Yeah. Behind every powerful man is a
willow tree.
Patient willow tree.
And it doesn't, and we've talked about this in maybe an unnecessarily gendered way. Anyone could be the willow in the relationship, and anyone can be the willow in their own lives, regardless of their gender.
That's true. We're just referring to the she in the song itself.
We are doing that.
Yeah.
Nick, anything else to say about bends like a willow?
No, that's all I got.
If you could compare yourself to the virtues of any tree, what would it be?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
And you didn't prepare still?
No, I think I know.
Okay, what is it?
A pawpaw.
A pawpaw? Because it takes you a dozen years
to do anything.
To be productive.
But it's worth the wait. And it doesn't travel well.
Exactly. Yes, that's what I was going for.
If you get it just at the right moment, it's nice and delicious.
You can really appreciate it.
Right.
But more often than not, you'll be disappointed. And the flowers really aren't pretty. It's not much to look at. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
What about you?
Oh, I would like to think of myself as a fig.
Oh, I was going to say an olive, but yeah, fig works too.
Oh, I'd love to be an olive, but the extraordinary thing about figs is they are super fast growing. They grow their root systems very, very quickly, and they can kind of deal with almost any conditions or soil. So I would like to think of myself, I'd like to aspire to be someone who can make the best out of any situation and adapt to it and provide lovely treats for people.
Some figs are like parasitic or invasive or something, aren't they? Aren't there some that'll like take over a plant?
Well, I guess I'm talking of the domestic European fruiting fig.
Oh, okay.
There are the strangler figs.
That's it. That's what I was thinking about, yeah.
Which will take over the structure of another tree and even choke it to death. And so sometimes you'll get a hollow leftover latticework fig with nothing in the middle where there used to be a tree.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I think even the tree under which the Buddha was supposedly became enlightened is a type of a fig tree.
I think so, yeah.
The Bodhi tree is a sort of a fig.
Oh.
I think, yeah. Yes.
Oh, cool.
It's a Ficus religiosa. But I don't think it makes figs.
It's just from the fig family.
It's the figgy family.
Yeah. It's the celibate fig. That's why it's religious.
It's the celibate fig, yeah. Nick, what are we bending our sights to next week?
We are going to travel thousands of miles to far Alaska. Buckle up.
Bring your parkas, pack some vitamin D tablets, and join us next week as we talk about far Alaska. Until next week, I am a fish trap. I'm Omen Thomas Sade.
I am caught in a fish trap. I'm Nick McGill.
We are filling you up from the cup of love of the feckless momes.
And this is the gentlest of breezes that you can catch the wind from. Talk Tull to me. Visit my sensitive passage.
It was a different time. It was a time of destiny. A time when a child could tip the balance between good and evil.
Why, with my powers, with the strength of my great army, can you not find one little child?
A time for an unlikely hero named Willow.
Tell her I'm not gonna let anything happen to the baby.
We gotta get that baby to somebody.
I'm somebody.
A time of scoundrels.
What goes on here?
Uh-oh.
And a time of rebels.
You are great.
After them!
You're gonna get us killed. You're a great warrior and a swordsman. And you're 10 times bigger than I am, stupid!
Find the child. Find the child!
It was a time when courage could be found where you'd least expect it. A time when unearthly powers raged and good men risked their lives. A time of great adventure. from the creator of Star Wars and the director of Cocoon, Willow.